started. All right, as you probably all know by now, I'm Sue. And I thank you so much for coming to our expo and participating and enjoying it, spreading the word. And I really appreciate you coming to support Dr. Sam and Corey. Their work is so important, and it's bigger than we can even know right now. And I would really love for all of us to band together on a mission of peace and love to help planet Earth evolve and all of humanity evolve quickly. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass the mic over to our featured speakers, Dr. Sam, the discoverer of the Bosnian Pyramid Complex, and Corey Goode.
First question, yes.
This question's for Corey. Can you hear me? Yesterday you mentioned the importance of not only meditating but taking action, and you suggested instead of talking about aliens and star races that we instead perhaps share technologies and new healing modalities and stuff like that that people might be more receptive to. And my question is there or could there be a repository for, say, articles, reports, videos, websites that have this information that we could then share with our family, friends, and network?
There's nothing like that available currently, but that is an excellent idea. It'd be nice to have a one-stop resource, but I want it to be a resource that's provided and put together by multiple people, and not just me, or not, it needs to be a collaborative effort. And because you know how it is right now in the community, there are so many people that are, like I said yesterday, that are stuck in their own little belief systems, and they formed little denominations, and they're behaving like the right-wing Christians that they like to make fun of, So we need to break out of that, and the best way to do that is for us all to work together and have information that's available to share, like you said, that doesn't lean towards any one denomination or belief system.
Thank you.
I've seen Santa Claus. I've wondered about genetic experiments at Fort Bragg in '73, so I was born there. And my Uncle Stan worked for GE, 6 months on, 1 month off. And how do you go about approaching someone? Because he always told me he just spied on people for 12 hours a day, which I totally believe. But maybe he knows more, and how do I approach him? Because I wouldn't want to put him at risk for a mysterious death.
So your question is how to approach?
Yeah.
Well, you have to tailor your approach to each individual. That individual is going to be more scientific-minded, of course. So like I said, speaking with them, not in a combative way, sitting there saying, material sciences have evolved so much over the last 100 years, but we're still using the same combustion engines that we were in the late 1800s, or that technology. Can you explain the discrepancy in acceleration of those technologies? You can open a very innocuous conversation with them, and then you can begin to lead it into electrogravitics and healing technologies and get their opinion on it. I wouldn't have them drink from a fire hose in the beginning, plant seeds, and then come back often and water. If we overwhelm people, we're going to do more harm than good, because they're going to pull back and clam up.
Hey, Corey. Question on channeling and channelers. I'm just wondering if in your experience in the 20 back on the glass pads, or in your experience outside of that, if you had any information on Cryon and Bashar. Both of them are American-based channelers. Over 20 years, I've been following both their work extensively. Bashar is channeled by Darryl Anka. He lives in Los Angeles. And Lee Carroll's the channel for Cryon. Cryon basically would express itself as the angel that created the Earth's magnetic grid, and it has been here since the beginning of Earth's creation, kind of helping humanity along until here we are today, going through the ascension. Bashar's basically, if you listen to his work, he's about a 5-foot-tall great alien from the Sassani planet, 2,700 years in our future, that's here as well to help the ascension process. They both came in around the same time, the harmonic convergence around 1987, so they've been doing their part to, like you, kind of raise the vibration of the audiences and hopefully get the message of their version of disclosure or truth to the community. So they've got pretty big followings. they both said, and I've been following almost 20 years each, so much of what you've said yourself the past couple years that I've been following you, it's incredible. Just even where we are right now in the solar system and going through the waves of energy we're in. Ryan said that entire story many, many times over the past couple of years before I heard you say it. So I'm just wondering, how does the Secret Space program look at those entities that are also been here doing their role, and do you have any information to share on that?
How does the Secret Space Program look at people like Bashar?
Yeah, do they try to stop them because they're telling truth or spreading information that's not in line with their information, or?
You know, I really don't know. I did not hear of, I don't know the other person, but Bashar I know of, because immediately when I came out, I started to get a lot of questions about their information. The other person I'm not aware of.
Lee Carroll.
Yeah, I'm not aware of.
Okay.
But a lot of people are receiving information like they are through channeling and other means. And the only channeling that that was mentioned when I was in the Secret Space Program or in the programs was the raw material. Mm-hmm. And they wanted the upper brass to read it and be familiar with it, but the rest of everyone else, they would tell us it's Luciferian. You know, it's from the devil. And a lot of the military types that were participating in these programs came from very conservative Christian backgrounds, and the powers that be know when to wave that little Satanism or Luciferian flag to cause a visceral reaction in those types of people. And you know, we've seen it done recently with me and some of my people. They try to say we were devil worshippers and stuff to get people to clam up and divert their attention. I would assume that they would do something similar to Bashar and the other person up in the programs, but they were not mentioned when I was there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Just on that note, since you mentioned the Luciferian and the way they try to maybe trick you into thinking that's not good.
It worked with me.
Yeah.
It worked with me. I stayed away from the raw material for a long time in forums and other places. If someone mentioned it, I had a reaction of, the people I trusted told me that it was Luciferian, so I stayed away. It wasn't until very recently that I took a look at the material and read it. The people in the programs that were above you, that were giving you all of this information, the programs, the Secret Space Program.
But Corey, in that 20-year period, there has to be a lot of people like you that were good people, intrinsically good. How, at a certain amount of time, didn't they kind of figure out that what they're doing is not good, especially if you see slave races on a planet or you're harming innocent life?
I was on the research vessel for years before I found out that there was a slave trade going on. And it was only because of I had a personal relationship with this certain officer, and she had, because she worked on the communication system, she had quite a bit of access that I never got to go to certain parts of the ship. Well, she was able to do so, and she began to socially engineer the different men that were there, and because she had somehow gotten a little bit of information that something like that was going on, and I didn't believe it, and we were brought in. She got us into a secure area where she opened up some pods, and we saw bodies in it, and it wasn't just the slave trade, but there's genetics that are being harvested and traded off world as well. So the compartmentalization that goes on, you're not going to hear what you're not supposed to hear. It's just not going to happen. And almost all of the people that I worked with were engineers and scientists of different sorts, and they were very focused on completing their task within the certain amount of years that they were pulled in, and they really didn't care about anything else. That's what they were focused on. They were not given information about anything that was going on outside of their program. These people were also very dedicated, and they were positive people. They were told that what they were doing was going to preserve the human species, and save the planet. So they fully had good intentions, the people I worked with.
So I have a question for you too. Could you both concur that the pyramid structures on the planet are part of geomancy, which is, I believe, trying to raise the vibration back up or assisting, or maybe it's helping filter or so? Thank you.
Is the Bosnian pyramid on ley lines? 3 ley lines? Very recently, about 2 years ago, I started talking about, on Cosmic Disclosure, the cosmic web and the electromagnetic filaments that connect. I mean, everything in time and space is connected. Every galaxy is connected by these electromagnetic filaments. Every star within those galaxies and every planetoid or object within a star system is connected to the star through these electromagnetic filaments. Each planet has a grid system on it, and as the planet spins, the electromagnetic filaments, like electricity, electric universe, connects to different nodes on the planet as it's turning around. From the information I received, they were balancing these nodes and controlling these nodes to where they were able to open these or predict the opening of these different portals. And it wasn't not just portals. They would use, when the portal wouldn't open, there was still an energy signature on that node area in these sacred places. And shamans would use these energies for different things, for healing, they would meditate within them and be able to reach other realms to pull down information. So I'm sure that there's a lot more to these grid systems than what I'm aware of, but what I was told was that it had to do with the cosmic web and balancing and completing circuits within the grid.
Geomancy is just a part of the answer for the pyramids. What we have measured in the case of Bosnian pyramids, the location is extremely important. Below the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun is a huge iron plate, as I explained yesterday. Iron generates electromagnetic fields. The pyramid, the most powerful geometrical shape when it comes to the energies, it amplifies this electromagnetism. The second form of the energy, underground water streams, about 65 feet below the pyramid, underground water. Water flows, releases negative ions. The pyramid amplifies. The third one, 70 feet below the pyramid, is the second underground water stream. Between the two parallel water streams, electricity is generated. The pyramid amplifies. Number 4, natural magnetism. Number 5, ultrasound. How do we get ultrasound? Electromagnetic field hits the quartz crystal, and then we have so-called piezoelectrical effect, which generates mechanical waves, which is a sound or infrasound or ultrasound. In our case, 28 kilohertz ultrasound. The pyramid amplifies this ultrasound. The next one, orgone energy or life or chi energy. In this conference hall, about 40%, outside 50%, villages 70%, pyramids 100% of the orgone energy. So the pyramids are actually huge energy amplifiers or energy machines. At least the oldest, the biggest, the most superior on the planet. In China, in Mexico, in Bosnia, in Egypt.
I'd like to ask a question real quick, or a couple. You mentioned an iron plate. Has that been analyzed by a metallurgist?
When we got the frequency of 28 kilohertz at the top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, we sent results to 3 different labs in Croatia, Serbia, and Austria. And they said, you had to have iron plate, or it can be iron ore, or it can be even spaceship. At the depth of 2,240 meters or 1.3 miles. Because of the depth, of course, we did not get there. But we do have the source of the electromagnetic fields.
Okay. from what you stated, I'm assuming that there's a high crystalline content in the rock. Have people witnessed or reported any type of plasma orbs in the area? Well, I asked for a reason, and he touched on it. That it occurs in a lot of places, and what? Oh, he did. Okay. Well, no. Listen, he touched on something that I found very interesting. A lot of these mountains act like giant capacitors, and as he stated, there are almost always water streams going by, and the friction of the water going across the crystalline causes a piezoelectric effect. That energy builds up in these mountains until it has to release, and what occurs is it releases these plasma orbs.
What I was showing them, but not everyone was here. Let me just... Okay, Corey. This is me with Eric von Däniken. We are in the underground tunnels under the Bosnian pyramids, and his assistant is filming us. While he's filming us, we can see all those thousands of orbs flying around us of different sizes, at different speeds, going zigzag, having fun. The orbs, well, according to our research, they are simply spherical energy entities with intelligence. And, okay, I'll show him the river of orbs. Now, here's the floor, the cable, and you will see millions of orbs flowing, literally river of orbs. There you go. Thank you.
What's the acidity of the soil like?
It's a clay. Clay. Clay is natural flooring here in the tunnels. However, the walls are conglomerate with a lot of quartz crystal. So now almost none, and the next moment you will see millions of them. Look. No, you can't see them. Majority of people cannot. I did have a few psychics who claimed to see them. You can even invite them. Yes, sir.
What if you learned how to harness those orbs and program them?
We don't harness them. They are simply different entities, like us. They simply vibrate differently than us. We don't need to harness them.
I'm asking you because we learned how to do it.
Good. You need to let us know. We simply respect their existence. Yeah. Interesting, huh?
My question is about mind control. I'd like a quick definition of the techniques that are used for mind control and how we are able to break through that web, and maybe how we can help others.
They use, of course, energetic mind control to pacify people, and stuff like fluorides and stuff like that in our water. But the most effective mind control is the mind control we do on each other. They'll give us, social norms. That's a type of mind control. Different religious systems that are perverted and used as control systems. Most of the mind control and control grid that's going on is self-imposed. They've tricked us into doing on ourselves. There's definitely an energetic, they've exploited these energetic grids that we have to cause them to put out fields that cause people to be more docile. And then we have the more direct effects of like the voice of God technology I've described on cosmic disclosure and other technologies that interfere with the extremely low frequencies that the brain emanates, the magnetic fields of the brain. They've learned how to manipulate and read the data coming through out of the magnetic field. They learned how to do that a long time ago. And not only can they read what's coming out, they're very adept at putting the information in pretty much the same manner.
How can we help others break away, like just by being a loving being?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, being loving, meditating, and all that's really good, but it's going to take action. You know, the only way you can really wake some of these people up is to shake them. There's also this component of this artificial intelligence, very ancient artificial intelligence that many different galaxies are dealing with. This artificial intelligence, it's a signal that's being broadcast, and it affects our consciousness in a very heavy way. The solar flash that I'm told that is going to occur, and like I said, with the scientists in the program, some of them believe it's going to be a 360-degree full circumference mass coronal ejection. Some of them think it's just going to be some electromagnetic pulses that come from the sun. So there's no agreement on what's going to occur, but there is agreement that whatever does occur in this solar event is going to take out all of our electrical grid, all of our technology, which they then state is going to be the perfect time to bring in these newer technologies. And when this occurs, it will also it'll clear out the AI. The thought of a solar flare, mass coronal ejection is very scary, but if it doesn't wipe us out, it's going to end up being very beneficial. It could be because I was told that they didn't say 3 days. They said that the entire circumference of the sun was going to be a mass coronal ejection, is what a lot of these scientists believe, and that the sun for a number of days will become like a giant sunspot, will be very dim, a number of days. Yeah, that's David likes to make things, match certain things, but yeah, I was told a number of days. It takes 8 minutes for the light to go from the sun to Earth for us to reach it. I mean, if something like that occurred on the sun, we're not going to know for 8 minutes.
Hi, Corey. Have you heard anything that they're going to do a test on the grids next month, like shut down part of it at different areas?
Of the electrical grid?
Yes.
No, I haven't heard anything about that.
My question's for Dr. Sam. I'm curious, has your team or any other team discovered any gravitational anomalies? Like, I understand that you said the resonance frequency was like the levitation frequency. I was just curious to know, or like, see if you've found any stones floating, or was that resonance just used to like maybe make the stones levitate into place and it's stuck with that frequency? Thanks.
We do measure 28 kilohertz ultrasound in the tunnels and on the top of the pyramids, Sun and the Moon, and Dragon, Love, Earth, Tumulus, which are the part of the complex. 28 kilohertz frequencies, what I explained yesterday during my lecture. Who was at my lecture yesterday anyway? Oh, there were 10 people. So, when you do experiments with the ultrasounds, 21 kilohertz, 22, 23, when you come to 28, then you can see that very light objects like ping pong balls, they can start levitating. This is the frequency we measured in the tunnels. You walk through the tunnels, you feel light. But on the other hand, your first question, gravitational force, I don't think it has anything to do with the ultrasound frequency. We did measure, gravitational force. It's regular, like outside. However, the ceilings in the tunnels are conglomerate, so it's just sand, pebbles, rocks, no binding material. So when you look at it, it shouldn't be there. It should come down to the floor, but it's standing there. And I had one of our friends, she feels the energies, she can see the energies. She told me that at the original time when they built those tunnels, they used some type of plasma to keep the ceiling up. Of course, for me, it's very hard to explain to mainstream archaeologists. Hey, we have some plasmas there, by the way. They make sure that the ceilings do not come down. But just in case, we do place wooden support in every tunnel that we open.
Hi, Corey. So happy you could make it into the East Coast here, and I hope to see you in the Washington, D.C. area sometime soon, where I live. But anyhow, my question is, I have 50 questions, but my most urgent question, my most curious question is, I had read, or even maybe heard on one of your programs, how the Alliance was thinking of taking out these platforms or maybe space stations that were orbiting the Earth, that were using, I don't know what source or what energy it was to control us. There were like 3 of them that he was talking about. I think this came from David Wilcock. And they're thinking of taking these out. And if they did that, it would have the effect that we would have like an acid trip on our consciousness. And it got me thinking about...
It'd be more like coming off of Vicodin cold turkey.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it would not be a pleasant experience.
Yeah, exactly. And I was also thinking about how the orbs that have been dampening all of these energy fields are basically dissolving away or going away, having less effect on the dampening. What can we expect from all of these cosmic energies that essentially we're going to be unprotected from them very soon, if not already? What are your thoughts? What is the information that you have on this right now in terms of the effects on us? How is these new energy waves that are coming in?
Okay. Well, I don't know if I explained this yesterday. As our solar system is passing through, we use the esoteric, a high vibratory, area of the galaxy, but it's basically a gas cloud, an energetic gas cloud. And as we pass through it, it's spinning, and we're like a dynamo going through this high energetic cloud. The energy feeds in through the north and south pole of the electromagnetic field of the sun. It then comes out from the sun. And the same thing happens to Earth. As these energies are coming, leaving the sun, they are interacting with the Earth's magnetic field and causing an electric reaction to where it goes into the north and south poles. And a lot of these energies are emanating out through these grids and just, like mountains,
Right.
like we discussed before, that we're able to carry the electric charge.
Well, would you say that we're kind of experiencing the early effects now of kind of like an end-time madness?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's affecting the consciousness of everyone and everything on the planet. But getting to this grid system, this is what they called an Orion grid system. It was put out there eons ago, and it causes a field to go around the Earth. That they're not all space-based. Some of them they utilize the grid, the ley lines, the grid. What the parts of the Alliance have discussed is that they want to shut off this grid. One of the reasons that we're having end-time madness is, because of this energetic increase. But not only do you have this energetic increase coming from the sun, but the beings that control this mind control grid have had to turn it all the way up to max for it to have the same effect. And we're being hit by all these different scalar waves, electromagnetic waves, and parts of the electromagnetic spectrum that we don't even really know how to measure. That is affecting the consciousness of everyone on the planet. I mean, we're seeing it right now, the end-time madness. You see, people that are positive, that are starting to kind of bliss out, people that are very negatively oriented, that are becoming more so, and they can't hide it anymore. They can't hide the negativity. And then the people who have mental illnesses are having a lot of difficulty. They are, and it's gonna get worse. So I hope that answers your question.
I have a question for Dr. Sam. When I was watching your video for the first time, I did notice what you pointed out yesterday, that the pyramids, the corners of the two sides look like they go down much farther than what the base is you're measuring. When you look at where the tunnels are that are going through the pyramids, are they down in that lower section, or are they just in the top area?
Officially, we use number of 220 meters, about 720 feet as the height of the biggest one, the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. But the tunnel entrance, when we look at the topographic map, is about 280 meters, or about 900 plus feet. So, officially, we would come below the pyramid. However, on some of the maps, we can see that actually the height of the pyramid is much more, about 1,200 feet, which would mean that we will get actually inside the pyramid using the tunnels. And so far, they're all leveled. But we work only on the first level of tunnels. Just last year, we discovered the second level of tunnels, about 40 feet below the first one. And it seems that there are between 3 and 7 level of tunnels under the ground. So after 12 years, we are still really scratching the surface.
And also that beam of energy that comes off the top of the pyramid, have you studied that at all? Like, do people have healing if they sit there? Is it good to sit on the top of the pyramid? Like, how does that frequency affect the body?
Okay, let me answer that question. And from that, my answer, I would like to ask Corey a question. So let me show you just a few slides. Let me get everyone else involved in this. So it will be easier to follow the whole thing. So this is the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. So from here up 220 meters, 722 feet. When we started the excavation, 3-4 feet below the soil, we are finding rectangular blocks, which we have analyzed at 7 institutes for materials. It's artificially made concrete. Some people call it geopolymer concrete, some people call it synthetic concrete. Much better quality than ours. So, if we, on this photo, remove this green color, change it to brownish, this is what you are getting. This is probably the original look of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. Now, on this illustration, here is the Sun Pyramid, 220 meters. Now here we removed the greenery, and you see how this side goes all the way down to the bottom of the valley. So now we are talking about 1,200 feet. So if we go back in time, the probable look of the whole valley of the pyramids. So the sun, the moon, dragon, love, temple of Mother Earth, 5 structures. But the reason we came here, when we started finding the purpose of pyramids, we are using different scientific disciplines. On the PIP camera developed by Dr. Oldfield, to the right we can see the town of Visoko in central Bosnia, and bioenergy fields, they are all horizontal. That's the natural ambiental fields. But the moment you get to the Sun Pyramid, to the left, and to the Love Pyramid, we can see vertical fields. Meaning, you have energy machines, energy is generated inside the pyramid, energy is getting released through the top, hitting those horizontal fields, they become vertical. Or, in more concrete terms, now we can see it 3D. Now, the Sun Pyramid, the town of Visoko, and look at the inside, the red color. The energy, it's getting accumulated. So we'll be seeing more and more of the red. You see, red, red, everything is red now. Energy is getting accumulated, going through the top, hitting those horizontal fields, they become vertical. But now why I'm doing this, I want to show something else. Let's look at it.
What is the blue energy?
Well, these are different frequencies. Look at this. This thermal signature, which is different than the others. You see how the shape is oval? The moment when we are getting the most of the red, it will be next moment, this oval-shaped vehicle is coming inside the pyramid. And then, a few moments later, you see, It's leaving.
It's like an orb. It's an orb.
Yes, it looks like the spaceship because of its size. Oh, I'm sorry, you can't see that. Here it is. This is a part of the question. And then last year, what we did, we sent a drone with different scientific instruments above the Bosnian pyramid of the sun, checking on electromagnetism, and then separately on electrical field, on magnetic field, on temperature, on orgone energy, ultrasound, infrasound, 7 different measurements we've done. The most interesting stuff were in electrical field, electrical, no magnetism. Magnetic aspect is not there. It looks like this. This is 0 meters. This is the top of the Bosnian pyramid of the sun. We have this energy beam, electrical in nature, of 13 feet. And then it starts to expand. At the height of 21 meters, or about 70 feet, it is the widest and strongest. And then it's getting narrow. And then it expands, getting narrow, expands, getting narrow. So these are the scalar waves, which you just mentioned, the scalar waves. Their properties is they are much quicker than the speed of light. And then we were checking, where is the scalar waves, where are they oriented to? And here's the orientation. You see the sides, east, west, north, and south. In the afternoon, the orientation was mostly to the southwest. At the noontime, south. Now let's see how our sun moves. In the morning, east. Noontime, south. Afternoon, southwest. Evening, west. Right? Sunrise. So, the scalar waves, noontime, south. In the afternoon, southwest. Meaning the scalar waves follow the path of the sun. And those who were here yesterday, they could hear that we also measure the ultrasound in this very energy beam, which is basically the information. So the scalar waves are oriented to the sun, so there is probably communication between the two. And then using the sun as the cosmic gate, going through other solar systems. So for the first time, it's been measured and scientifically proved that there is a connection between sun and the moon. So we do have scalar waves on the top of the sun pyramid. So now my question for you, we could see that oval-shaped vehicle coming to the pyramid, which is obviously energy machines, using it as the gas station. That's one thing. And then also the scalar waves produced by the pyramids. Any comments there?
Yes. Basically, what I was shown is that the ley lines, or the natural grid system, they were manipulated and used in ancient times by off-world groups to create, to change those ley lines into basically like a circuit board. That these different ancient structures, such as pyramids, were then shooting energy out straight up. And most of the time, it is just energy. It's like shining a flashlight into nowhere. But as the Earth spins and different star systems rotate into the path, they are activated. And it is sending this faster than light energy through these electromagnetic filaments between the stars. It's utilizing the cosmic web. This can be used for bidirectional information sending, like a Wi-Fi system.
That's the conclusion we are getting. But then, in our case, the good thing is that this is the only archaeological site, important archaeological site, where we are totally open. All others, Egypt, Mexico, Peru, Egyptologists do not let physicists, engineers to do the measurement because they stick to the story, tombs for the pharaohs. And I know there is a lot of questions, but if you don't mind, when we're talking about this energy beam, we also detected the ultrasound inside this beam. So what we did, we converted the ultrasound to something that we can hear. So I'd like to run this audio file. I think it's very interesting, and maybe somebody can decipher what it means. Here it is. So, we were on the top of, there was a question actually about the top of the pyramid where we detected the energy beam. When you go there, 5 minutes is fine. After 5-10 minutes, you become a little bit dizzy. And then, dowsers came, they measured on the Bowie scale. Bowie scale, humans are from 6,000-7,000 bovies to 20,000-25,000 bovies. Everything up to 25,000-30,000 bovies, very pleasant. Over there, 50,000 bovies. So it's just too much. So within this energy beam, 13 feet, we measured the ultrasound. Now we notice when we were measuring the electrical field that it's getting stronger as it moves away from the pyramid. It's getting stronger, which is a kind of anomaly, because you would expect if the source of the energy is inside the pyramid or below the pyramid, that the signal is getting weaker and weaker. But here, it's getting stronger and stronger. So theoretically, this energy beam can go through our solar system, can go. And with this ultrasound, obviously, we have a form of the communication. Ultrasound is the information. So the pyramid becomes a very powerful communication device. And again, we are the first one who are proving that. I believe it's the same thing with the Egyptian pyramids, but they simply do not allow people to research that.
That's one of the reasons they removed the capstones a long time ago, is to remove that communication. Now, my question is, that sound, is it constant or does it spike? I mean, what I'm wondering is, as if during the time, if the signal changes, have you star charted to see if stars are in alignment, if that's affecting the field? Because that does sound a little bit like some of the NASA sounds of the stars and sounds of, cosmic sounds.
Okay, what we could see is that the peak is 28 kilohertz. Then it comes again to 28 and 28. And so we have the same distances. We have blocks of ultrasound coming in blocks. And then we measure the nearby hills. We don't have the same peaks. We don't have the same distances. We even measure one pyramid hill in Italy, Monte Pavione, 4 triangular faces. But again, no same peaks, no same distances. Just the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, because it is an energy machine. You have those blocks. Yes, yes.
Okay, like a sine wave. Are these peaks consistent, or do they change? Is it very consistent? Okay. Okay. One of my next questions doesn't apply now. I was going to ask if you took and did an analysis or a chart of these sine wave peaks and convert it from analog into digital to see if there's any type of information that can be gleaned from it. Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like it's a giant wireless network communicating. One of the reasons I was also asking about the peaks and valleys of the sine waves in the measurements is that, I was wondering if star alignments were having any effect as we rotate, and the point of the pyramid is in alignment with a star, if you're able to, trace that and see if there's any changes.
Well, when it comes to alignments, our first question is how many pyramids we have. In Egypt, we are talking about 3, Teotihuacan, 3 main pyramids, Valencia in Spain, 3 main pyramids, Montevecchio in Italy, 3 main pyramids, and they have exactly the same layout. In Bosnia, right now we have done excavations on 5 pyramidal structures. Most probably we have 7 because there are 2 pyramid hills, but completely private land, we cannot do any excavation. So if it is 7, then we can be talking about the Pleiades. But then the question is how many originally, because what we have as radiocarbon dating is 29,200 years. So we go back for 30,000 years, at least 2 huge flood waves that would destroy smaller structures. If it was 9, then we can talk about 7 sister of Pleiades and the father and the mother. But as we know, the star cluster of Pleiades have 104 stars. So I don't think this is like the major the thing as far as the pyramids, because for me it's even more important the layout of 3 main pyramids, Sun, Moon, and Dragon. They form perfect equilateral triangle. It is very obvious. Egyptians, they have this triangle, but it's not regular. It's not. But here we have equilateral triangle.
Have you looked at 25,000 years ago, the star charts from that time era, and compared it?
Can I ask a question? Sorry, I've been waiting a while. I forgot my question.
I was wondering if your arm was getting tired.
Yeah, no, it is. I'm not that strong. I want to take you back to a time when you discussed something that happened with Kyrie, when she did something on you and you were able to release some kind of a negative influences that were coming out of your body. You said it was kind of quite startling. Yeah, and I have concerns about those personally, and I want to know, how do you go about doing a self-cleaning in terms of something like that? I have.
Well, it's not a one-time cleaning. Everyone has them, and you can clear them, and usually they come back.
But how do you clear them?
Way.
I mean, it's
and in this case, she used this crystal that she rubbed, and then it started making this tone, kind of like when you do the outside of a glass to make that high-pitched noise, and that somehow drove them out. If and they connect to your energetic, to your chakras, to your energetic centers. If you have a behavior or something that's going on that's keeping that, I guess, kind of portal open to allow them to come back, they're going to continue to return. Identifying what type of entities they are is important, and figuring out how to change your behavior or your environment to prevent them from coming back is just as important as removing them.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, keeping yourself in a certain vibration makes it very difficult for them to stay attached. But, that's very difficult because when they're attached to you, they're keeping your vibration low. And so, I mean, you have to overcome and then keep your vibration high through diet, through different practices like meditating.
Do you do anything to practice that? I mean, do you practice meditation?
Yes, I meditate. I presume that everyone here meditates, whether they think they are or not. Anytime you're sitting back in deep thought and daydreaming, you're in a meditative state.
Okay.
So we try to make things a little too magical with meditation sometimes. It's something that the body naturally does. Everyone meditates. They go into these different states. You go into deep theta when you sleep. When you're dreaming. But yeah, I mean, meditation's important, but we don't need to make it a completely magical kind of thing. It's something that our bodies naturally do as we're going in and out of different states of awareness as we're waking up and going to sleep throughout the day. A lot of times you'll feel yourself pull back and you start to daydream, and you're going into a meditative state. But having a more focused meditative state, focused with intent, is important. Of the intent of not just going into the meditative state, because we all do it, but to then be able to, it's kind of like lucid dreaming. Everyone dreams, but every once in a while someone will have a lucid dream, but once you learn how to recognize a lucid dream and how to control it, then you start to have a different experience. And it's the same with meditating and getting into those different states of consciousness, from my experience anyway.
Yeah, I have a question about on your latest video I was just listening to before I came here about the Anshar. You had mentioned they were trying to move into a temporal anomaly to escape the cosmic energies. I wonder if there's anything you can share on that more about.
Yes, what they've told me is that every cycle, which is 20-something thousand years, they sequester themselves inside one of these temporal anomalies. During these cycles, the energetics change quite a bit. They're fourth density beings, and it's basically consciousness is what we're talking about. Ascension it first happens through an expansion of consciousness, and then everything in the physical realm kind of follows. As I stated yesterday, we're not all of a sudden going to have telekinesis and be flying around the planet when these energies occur. It's going to take a long time for us to kind of acclimate to them and learn how to utilize them. So
Does that affect them in some other way that's different than us?
yes, we are susceptible to these fields. So let's say a field that is our consciousness is on a certain vibratory level right now, a frequency. Theirs is at a much different frequency, and they're affected by these high frequencies coming in a different way than we are. It's not necessarily going to give them a bump up in an ascension as it is us, because we're lower down on the frequency level. They're above the frequency level of the energies coming in, because they are basically, they claim to be us from the far future after we've already made this consciousness ascension, this fourth density shift.
Hi. Hi, Corey. Actually, my question is a little bit close to what he said, too. When we heard about the meditation during total eclipse and how successful it was, and now we were told it's only a small amount of light workers going to maintain and steward that. So we hopefully we will have an optimal timeline. So my question is about how do we coordinate that? Seems like we scatter around different regions, and we probably will get together on this kind of event. Is there a plan to help us to coordinate the effort? Because look at this is how important, very small amount, very committed light workers to do this thing, and we know it's very hard to. Every single one of us go to different personal, family, all the obstacles. This is not the easiest thing to do at all.
Right. Yeah, it's any time anyone tries to form some sort of cohesion for people to work together in that way, something magically pops up that divides people. And these are basically operations that are done by these different intelligence groups. They do not want us coming together and mass meditating. This is an uphill battle for us to be able to organize. I stated yesterday, our co-creative consciousness, we have the ability, not only do we have the ability, we're co-creating this experience right now. Everything is a vibratory illusion. We're given it cohesion by some sort of an agreement between us. We're agreeing that we're going to co-create, this environment. That's a lot of power, and that's also the power of these cabal groups. We hear about the black magic they use against us. Well, the black magic that they use against us is our own co-creative consciousness abilities. We manifest things. They plant seeds in us, and then they give us a catalyst, usually a heavy emotion of fear. And that catalyst will cause us to manifest what they want us to. Instead, of us being tricked to manifest a prison planet, once we learn our co-creative abilities, we're going to be able to manifest whatever future we want. That's what they have to keep us from discovering. And that's one of the main reasons why it's been so hard to bring all of these people together to, form a group that's going to do mass meditations that are focused on one intent. That's really what needs to happen. All of us that come together and we're all meditating on slightly different things, if we can find one intent to come together on, we're going to be able to manifest it on a small level, but it's going to throw the balance off of this black magic reality they've created. Yeah, just meditating alone is going to, because, the 100th monkey effect, we've got there's a super consciousness that, we all tap into, the Akashic and, and then, different levels. So if they can prevent us from tapping into that information or just getting a bunch of people, even if they have different intent, if you get like a fraction of 1% of the population all meditating, even if it's on different intents at the same time, it's going to affect the mass consciousness. And that they do not want that happening because they are affecting the mass consciousness in a way that allows them to control.
Excuse me, sir.
Sure.
I've been visiting very interesting communities on the planet that were trying to combine spirituality with the physical aspect. For example, in Italy, close to Turin, there is a place called Damanhur. Probably some of you heard about Damanhur. They've been there for almost 4 decades. Meditation is part of their daily life, several times a day. Very spiritual community. Then Auroville in India, southeastern India, on the Indian Ocean. 50 different nations, village of 2,500 people. Again, meditation, the focused meditation is part of their daily life. Kibbutz in northern Israel, several communities here in the US. But then eventually what becomes a problem is the power struggle, money, how to organize their communities. So even when there is an organized effort of hundreds or several thousands of people, it seems that for some reason, one or another, they are not able to, get there on the track all the time. The problem with our society the last 8,000 years, we have, less than 1%, having most of the resources, 99% of us not being organized. We try to do something good. Like he says, intelligence is there not to allow us to do that. So we need to get better organized. We need to get organized. Conferences like this, seminars, people talking about this, sharing the knowledge, the information, it becomes the major thing.
Corey, what about these other races that are living inside the Earth? It seems that they have no choice than to follow the plan the Anshar have of revealing themselves, because once their cover is blown, their cover is blown. They didn't want to go along with revealing their identities and their history. And are they just going to do nothing, or what do they intend to do?
Well, it depends on the group you're talking about. There are many.
I know, that's the
in
thing.
the programs, these bases, they called them embassies, and they would call these non-terrestrials people, no matter what they look like. Now, what's the root of your question again? What are they?
What are they going to do? I mean,
now some of these groups want to come out under their own plan, I guess you could say. Some of these more negatively oriented people are non-humans, such as the ones that are living under Antarctica right now. They really want to have a future to where we have disclosures in a way to where we find out that, hey, there's an ancient civilization that's been discovered under the ice. This ancient civilization didn't come from Earth originally. This ancient civilization, that bloodline was genetically mixed with the beings that were here on Earth, the humans that were here on Earth, to create a bloodline to control the planet. This, what they would like to do, these negative groups, is for us to find out about these civilizations under the ice in a way that makes them look like divine, makes us accept a divine right of kings and begin to look at them as demigods. And they're going to, be able to say, we come from this great race that, once, inhabited multiple solar systems. We have all of this sacred knowledge that's going to help the planet, subjugate yourselves to us. Well, you have positive beings that do not want that to happen, such as I was speaking recently with intelligence people. They're very aware of the different timelines that are going on. We were not supposed to win World War II. We were given a two-front war with two very aggressive enemies, so-called enemies, and America wasn't supposed to make it through it the way it did. But America was receiving assistance from a different non-terrestrial group that had a different agenda. We would like to think they're positive. The same group that helped our forefathers set up this country, to begin with. There were a lot of hands in creating this country. It was a miracle that it came to be at all because of the adversity that they had. So there are multiple agendas and multiple plans in competition with each other right now. The one that wins out is going to become the new reality. One of the reasons we really need to get organized, put aside all these different denominational UFO belief systems, and just say none of us really knows the truth, but we want the truth, and just agree to that and that alone and work together.
Thanks, Corey. So I have a question about something a little bit different, but lately, if you look around different news outlets, there's these images or video clips of anomalies of physical matter, kind of froze, suspended in space. So you'll see like planes attempting to land, but the plane is actually just staying still. You can hear the exhaust, or you'll see like a bird flying. But the bird is flapping his wings, and it really looks like it should be going far, but you can kind of walk 360 degrees around the bird. It's just staying there but flapping his wings. Have you seen anything like that? And is this like a time anomaly, or do you have any explanations or any insights on things like that?
No, I would have a lot of questions, as in where this is occurring. Is it close to some of these energy grids? We have I said yesterday, we have a lot of time at our current level of, we can understand now, okay, there are gravitational waves, space can be compressed and expanded, but we have a hard time with time. These timelines that people just, they can't grasp it. Yeah. But the time and space are both elastic. They both snap back. Now, during these energetic changes, there are going to be different points on within the grid system on the planet that weird anomalies are going to happen. I don't know if this is one of them or not, because I'm not really familiar with it.
Well, a lot of these occurrences are by airports where the plane is actually landing, and now the video is kind of expanded, so you're seeing the point of view of inside the plane, where people are in the plane looking out the window thinking like, we're not moving, it's very clear. And then from the outside of the airport, people are recording the planes. You're hearing the exhaust and everything, but the plane is just sitting there very still, not moving at all, and many other points. But yeah.
I'll look into that. I'm not familiar with it.
So I would like to ask Corey, have you heard anything, or do you have any opinion on the crop circle phenomenon? I've been there, I've visited it, I've talked to a lot of people who've studied it for 25 years, and they do see these plasma orbs creating these things in the fields. So I'm curious what you think of that, and also I'm curious what you think of the chemtrail activity. It seems to have slowed down this year, but it was really heavy the last 5 years, and probably for longer than that.
In the programs, there were several different theories about what was going on with the crop circles. I basically just heard the scientists discussing the different theories. There was no conclusion at that point. The 9/11 and the chemtrail thing are two things that I just don't have a whole lot of information on. But it's definitely, I've talked to a couple people in intelligence agencies, and they've stated that some of the spraying is to reflect energy coming in, but some of them are created just to bounce communications waves off of. So that's the extent of my knowledge on that. I don't know who's creating them. I know that we've been able to reproduce them, in the programs. They've been able to reproduce them, but I don't know if this code has been deciphered within them or not in the programs.
I have a question for both of you. If you heard about the stone circles in South Africa, like 200,000 of them?
Yes.
And what do you know about that?
From Michael Tellinger? Well, he's been, of course, investigating Adam's calendar, which is very interesting astronomically, but also he's been doing a lot of energy measurement inside. The ultrasound, electromagnetic fields, decibels. You move out of the circle, none of those measurements are there, only within the circle. So probably it's telling us there is something below energy potent place. You got circle, when you have a circle, you focus the energy and stuff like that. Yes. But as far, yes, yeah, this is part of the deal. But the stone circles on the African continent, there are, according to Michael, not hundreds of thousands, but about 20 million. Sometimes they are very small. Sometimes there is like 5 circles. Sometimes there are more, 2 or 3. And now it was a huge construction effort. You would need hundreds of thousands of people for that. And as we know, that the African continent has been the least inhabited in the past. So we did not have this labor to do that. So how it was done? Very often he showed during his presentations that power of sound can arrange or rearrange sand or, on a larger territory, stones. So it's very possible that it has been done that way. But it's very, very ancient phenomena. So it's very interesting, yeah.
It's questions for Corey. I guess ever since I heard you speak about uniting the world with mass meditations, that lit me up. And I've already been doing that to some degree with the International Day of Peace. It happens every September 21st. So I've been working with a group of people around the planet that are already doing that. And so we're looking at how to bump it up to the next level. And I got to the place where you just spoke about, if we had one intent, but how do you get such diverse, that's my passion right now, how do you get such diverse ideologies and thought forms and beliefs to focus on one intent? And I think that's, once I get that or feel that, I think that will help me to really work with that aspect.
First of all, we have to find an intent that everyone can agree on. We have to overcome a lot of these different belief systems. Now, if you lower on the scale, none of the belief systems are you're not going to find any merging. But the higher and higher you go up, idea-wise, as in, if we're wanting to have better crops, that's a regional thing that people are going to meditate on. Or if you want better weather, people will focus on that. But as you move up to up higher level, people, it's not hard to get people to focus on peace,
right.
World peace.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is find some sort of intent that everyone can agree on and that there won't be any conflicts. That's the first step. The second step of organizing it, we're going to have to do a lot of trial and error still to get this right, because the powers that be, as they say, are definitely on their heels right now and are doing anything they can to make sure that we don't come together in that way.
Yeah.
So it is, like I said, definitely an uphill battle.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's going to be trial and error, but it just takes the trial part. We have to do it. We have to try.
Thank you. Thank you. That was very helpful. I just wanted to share a couple of things that I find most helpful to deal with the energetic forces now, and it came from a teacher that I work with. His name was Swami Kripalu, and he was a Kundalini master. His main practice was alternate nostril breathing, and what I've learned, what that does, it really helps to prepare our bodies and our physicality and our nervous system to move into these higher energy fields. And also for clearing is the Native American sweat lodge. So if you have an opportunity to be in a Native lodge, that helps to clear a lot of those entities. And so I needed to say that much. Thank you.
Hi. I wanted to ask you, you had posted something about Netflix and that they were doing a 20 and back show. Could you share with us on that?
Yes, it's very much in the planning stage. What we're attempting to do is try to find different ways to get the information out and to use the tools of our enemy against us. I stated yesterday, whenever you watch a movie, you'll go into like an alpha state, which is basically setting you up to be in a state that you're more susceptible to programming. Now, they're doing that in a covert way to manipulate our mass consciousness. What we're hoping to do is in a very overt way, use those same tools, use movies, use different symbols in like graphic novels and encourage people to put that information out in other ways in the same type of media that's used against us. If we can start to slowly awaken people, or at least soften them, a little bit to where they're ready to awaken, it's going to assist this effort that we're trying to do right now. So, yeah, we're working with some well-known writers and producers and stuff like that, and we want to do a movie and a series about the 20 and back, which, that's a very science fiction, sexy kind of topic. People will want to watch it. Okay, you got them hooked. While doing that, put in different spiritual things, different things that are going to guide people to think, like, and challenge their own belief systems. We want to do that, use a covert tool of the enemy to use in an overt way. But it'll be a good year and a half before that comes about, and in the meantime, we need to find other ways to affect the mass consciousness through meditation and other things like what we're doing here.
When you start getting, this is what I'm thinking, because you're talking to the choir here, is getting to the more conservative. If you get on Netflix, which is not like Gaia, which is a pagan, a lot of people don't even know about Gaia. It's just wonderful. It's something where more people who are more the conservative people I'm around anyways, to begin to have this information, even subtly. That's what I feel is very important, not just the...
What's interesting is that when it comes to the conservatives, most of the people who watch Cosmic Disclosure are conservatives. Gaia stated that they got the largest bump in viewers when they would advertise in Christian publications.
So this is good. Now Netflix is another good one.
Right, but we need to have numbers of money is definitely a problem. It's a tool created by the enemy, and of course we want to utilize that against the enemy.
Because to be here and talk to people about it, we're talking to each other. It's wonderful. But I go out to my family and you have no one to talk to.
No, yeah.
Get in a wall.
Right. Well, I'm preaching to the choir, but most of the choir is not singing. Most of the choir is sitting there looking at the lyrics. They're not, it's all happening right here. They're not pushing it out. They're not sharing it. So the choir needs to start singing, but we need to find a song that the target audience, right, is going to accept.
I have to be careful how I sing it.
Exactly. And that goes back to not approaching people with 8-foot-tall blue aliens and approaching them with more, yeah. Well, not even that. You need to tailor your conversation for each person. You have to profile them a little bit.
Hi, Corey, I have a question. I had seen you on Gaia talk about Kyrie had offered to give you a sort of a mind meld to tell you who you were, who you are, and who you will be in the future. And at the time, you were not open to receiving that. Later, I heard you say that you were becoming more open to receiving that. Have you received that information, or if and when you do, would you share that with us?
No, I have not received the information. I have observed Gonzalez very closely because he has gone through that process, and he literally became a different being. I mean, he is not the guy I knew before. Now, this may sound petty, but I was told that it would profoundly affect my relationship with people I'm currently close to, like my children, my family. So it's a very selfish thing. I'm worried that Gonzalez was one of the main reasons he was using, Gonzalez isn't his real name, obviously. He has family down here, and he was very concerned about them being targeted as a way to get to him. Now, he has changed in such a way that he's become a different being on a different mission, and that relationship is not important to him anymore. So yeah, I have some trepidation about that. If I was told they made that offer 3 times, and I turned it down 3 times. If I ever get to a point to where I feel like I am ready for that, I am to approach them, and I am not there.
Hi, Corey. My name is Smarty, all over the internet. Earlier, you mentioned about how people are using technology to manipulate matter, right? What if we have the ability to do the same thing to combat what they're doing to us?
We do have the ability.
I know, because
Yeah.
I'm one of them.
Right. Well, what's your question?
My question is there any way any one of you guys would consider working with someone like myself who has the ability to do that?
Well, we have to be willing, everybody, to work together. So, yeah, I'm definitely willing to work with anyone who has information or techniques, and test them. Put them through some tiny scientific method to see,
Right.
What type of results we get. And if it's something that turns out to be beneficial, then of course we'll do everything we can to try to get people to join together and adopt those, new methods.
Okay, because I have a website where people can go and download free images, and all you have to do is put them on your devices, and they'll cancel out radiation, and that's for free.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, what's the website?
It's holotech.biz, HOLOTECH.biz.
How you doing, Corey?
Thank you.
I was just wondering, have there ever been any times that you've wished that you didn't have these experiences and lived a quote-unquote normal life, or do you feel you're lucky to have experienced all this?
Yeah, one of the biggest things I see from people, there's people that seem to be jealous, I have people, they're obviously not listening closely to me because this is not a pleasant thing. When I'm meeting with these beings, they're not patting me on the back and saying, "Oh, you're going to be such an important person." No, they're pointing out what a jerk I am constantly. And right when I think, okay, I've dealt with that. Like recently, I talked about, when I was very young, I grew up in a very crazy family, lots of abuse, alcoholic. People that were veterans from different wars. And being an intuitive empath, I could read people. And the only control I had was controlling my environment, manipulating. And it became such a part of my personality that I didn't realize what a manipulator I'd become. Well, after I dealt with some of the things that they had shown me, and I thought, okay, I'm doing good, I'm doing well. Well, they show me that about the manipulation part of myself. And they showed me the free will that I violated in so many people going back 10, 11 years old. And that was a major punch in the breadbasket, you know. So I immediately, I started focusing on that. And the only pat on the back they gave me is they said, you're one of the few people that if we point something out, you don't go through all this denial and everything, you do it. You know, they like that about me. But they keep bringing stuff. I mean, you know, I've been dealing with the manipulation thing, and then I'm not gonna, it's very private, then the next thing, and then I'm feeling good about seeing that I'm getting that, you know, under control. I'm not doing that anymore. So then they show me another thing that's even more intimate and upsetting that I need to change. So I've gone through quite a metamorphosis through the process, you know, a lot of quick growth. They called a lot of it karmic quick burn, and it's been very uncomfortable. But this has been going on in some degree since I was 5 years old with the communications that I've had. So, you know, be careful what you wish for. I get emails, how can I get my son into the secret space program? I'm like, what? What? I mean, you're not listening to me, you know? No, you do not want to be a part of that. You know, most of it is that, you know, people, they want some sort of validation, and they're not getting it.
Yeah.
And they become upset with those who are. But what really ticks them off is when I tell them what I learned recently is that it's their higher self that's determining if they get contact, what type of contact they will get, or what they need to do to prepare themselves for any type of contact. You know, so it's occurring from our higher selves. So if you get mad that you're not having this type of contact, then you need to go inward and figure out, you know, why and what you need to do to make yourself ready or to put yourself in that vibration. But no, this has not been a real pleasant experience.
I'm Sue Greenwald, and I'm the producer of the Empowered Light Holistic Expo. The expo is held twice a year outside of Philadelphia in Oaks, Pennsylvania.
My experience here has been awesome. There's a lot of energy here. There's a lot more energy than I expected. There really is.
First timer, it was actually more than I expected.
All the vendors, they take their time, they explain things to you, and they make you feel welcome and warm.
My experience at the expo has been life-changing. I've learned a lot about myself that has been incredible.
Well, it's much more than what I expected. Between the speakers, the vendors, and all the products I found, once again, the energy that's here, it's great.
The people that I've met and the different speakers that I've listened to actually have enlightened my initial basic thinking of this way of life. So I would definitely say it's a positive experience, and I'm so glad that I came.
The Empowered Light Expo really has the pull of getting people from all different categories of light. Like last night we had two guys who've never been to the show before, didn't know anything about it, and they were having a blast. They were actually loving it because the wives dragged them here, but then they were buying more stuff than the wives were, so it was really cool.
There's just so many things happening, so many different readings and stuff. I've never experienced so much in one area. I find things that I'm drawn to that have changed my thinking about a lot of things.
The Empowered Light Holistic Expo is different from any other expo because this is about centering your energy, centering your chakras. Most expos I go to are mostly health and wellness, and they try to sell you products like with chemicals and things of that nature. This is all natural, all holistic, and the energy is amazing.
Well, I think it's very diverse. There is things that you wouldn't normally see at a regular expo or experience or actually have the chance to partake in as far as healing, positive vibes, and good energy. It's really awesome.
There's literally a tangible energy. There's good people here. There's good energy. There's good vibes here. Usually you go to the expos and there's like all kinds of EKG energies, like totally up and down. And here you have like a smooth vibration.
Come on down, it's great.
Come no matter what, even if you think it's outside of your comfort zone, come check out something new, experience something new.
Come with an open mind.
Come with an open mind and come just to experience and feel the energy.
Come to this expo. Just do it. Don't even overthink it. You'll be pleasantly surprised.
Come to the next expo. It's gonna be an amazing experience. You're literally gonna meet like kindred spirits.
Our next expo is planned for April 27th through 29th, 2018. We're going to have over 100 holistically oriented vendors and speakers in 4 rooms. Many of our talks, lectures, and workshops are free, included with your general admission ticket. Go to our website, www.empoweredlight.com, and be part of the change.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for being the brave person you are to come out and do all this stuff that you've been doing. I don't have the courage to do that, so I have to acknowledge
I didn't either.
that. Yeah.
I was forced into it. I was pretty much outed and put out there, and
Right.
then it just kind of snowballed.
The question is, I guess you're aware that Elon Musk has decided he's going to Mars in a few years. How does the secret space program deal with somebody like him? Is he part of that, or is he on the outside, or what's the information?
Just like during the Apollo mission, we had different groups that were causing setbacks for the programs. That occurs for these corporate space programs as well. But I think that some of these different people that are starting these corporate space programs, they find out that if they start towing the line and working with, like, let's say, the International Space Station, well, Elon Musk, they're sending up rockets to bring material, up to the space station. Well, now that they are working with the powers that be, they start to have a little bit more success. But they're only going to be allowed to have a certain amount of success. They will, during the Apollo mission and some of these other corporate space programs, they start having setbacks that just don't make sense. Something as simple as from space, I'm creating a field around an area where they're doing experiments to where what would normally make sense in physics to work just doesn't work, And, there's a lot of interference and a lot of setbacks that are introduced by these different more advanced space programs, and it's mostly humans that are monitoring what's going on in these different programs. Civilian programs. Now, free energy, that's one of the things that, the Holy Grails. Well, if you have the ability to achieve an experiment that creates a free energy device, that device puts off a field that they're monitoring for. So I don't care if you're 50 feet underground, in a shielded environment, the minute you flip that on, they're going to know where you are. They're going to triangulate you very quickly because that same technology is used in multiple different types of spacecraft, both ours and theirs. They use that to be able to tell when a craft comes into our solar system. That technology puts off a certain signature. They use it even kind of like a beacon for air traffic control. So, there's interference in that way. The minute that anyone creates that type of device and turns it on, they're going to be found immediately. They can't block it in any way? No, you can't shield it.
Hi. First of all, again, thank you for coming to the East Coast. We really appreciate it. And thank you for your honesty for helping us along our spiritual journey also. Quick question. You talked about the karmic quick burn. So for those of us who are still working on our issues, one of the things you said about the solar flash was that it was going to be 2018, 2023, somewhere around there. If the Anshar have already sort of gone into hiding, does that mean it's a little closer?
They're feeling the effects. Now, they're expecting some sort of a number of events. Like, it's not just one event they're expecting in this time window. There are a number of things they're expecting. Now, the solar flare, I get a lot of questions, which is going to happen first? Is there going to be disclosures? Is there going to be a solar flare? I don't know. We're co-creating what occurs together. So it's pretty much up to us.
So it's a little different than, forgive me for bringing another person into this, but the remote viewing from Ed Dames, who has a list of precursors, some of which have happened and some of which have not happened. Have you been given any information about precursor events before whatever that flash would be?
Not that I can think of, not necessarily precursor events, but a ramping up of side effects from these energies coming in. I mean, I was told, keep an eye on the volcanoes. When you start seeing those popping all around the world, you know that we're getting very close to, the not only the solar flash, but there's a lot of geological changes that are going to occur on the Earth that are going to be, kind of scary.
And one more question. I know at one point you had asked about how many people are ready for ascension, and the answer was that it changes on any given day. Has that answer been any different?
At any given moment. It's like, it's a pulsing, breathing thing, depending on any moment. The number can be large or it can be small, because we, throughout the day, we go up and down, So you have, 7 billion people on the planet going through the same thing, and it's not necessarily going to happen all in concert. So, that's one of the things Kier tried to explain to me, is that it's like a pulsing, breathing occurrence.
So stay in the moment is the message then, right?
Yeah, stay in the moment.
Thank you. Stay in the moment.
Stay in the moment.
How you doing, Corey? My question is touching on the remote viewing. I understand when some people remote view or remote influence, like if they pick up a photo, they only really can connect to the thing on the photo. Like, is there a way to co-creatively remote view? Like, let's say we have someone with cancer and we have 25 people remote viewing to help them get rid of the cancer, but instead of doing something like that, obviously you said every time like a victory for the Alliance is not very much like a big victory. Is there a way we can like try and remote view like these reptilians and try and transmute their intentions and emotions with love instead of like trying to destroy them? Like, is that possible?
Absolutely, it's possible. I mean, being able to remote influence beings, cancer, all of that is possible. We're co-creating this reality right now. We're co-creating, this little speck or whatever that's floating in the air that probably half of us have breathed in and breathed back out. On some level, we're co-creating that little speck. There's some sort of cohesion of consciousness that is agreed that these parameters of reality are what we're going to work in. Well, we have the ability not only to co-create that bandwidth that we're existing within, we can manipulate this illusion of matter or disease or consciousness of different beings. But first of all, we need to reclaim that ability. developing different remote viewing and influencing techniques is good. Yeah, we all have the ability. We're all these different beings that are also in our solar system, their mass consciousness is contributing to the co-creation of this reality that we're experiencing. So yes, we can definitely affect the consciousness and the vibration of other beings, even those that we perceive above us.
So, like, obviously we are all one. Galactically, would that mean you're saying, like, with the reptilian or God only knows what other consciousness is out there, that's separate than our own, or is only the AI, like, even is that part of our collective consciousness?
It's affecting our collective consciousness. What I was told about this AI is that it came from another reality so far back in time that most of these ancient non-terrestrial groups don't even know where it came from, because it came about way before they came about.
Hi, Corey. Again, thank you both for being here. Yesterday, when we were talking about the meditation thing, and we talked about some of the difficulties of trying to coordinate it, I know, like during the eclipse, Cobra and some other people all picked out a specific time. And the visual thought that came into my mind was, if you've been at a circus and seen a plate on a stick and people spinning it, well, I think the intention that you came up with, as far as full disclosure, is a simple intention that takes away a lot of the difficulties of getting too spread out. So much like cadence in the military, where they break cadence when they cross a bridge, well, the grid that they're controlling or energetically controlling, maybe the answer is as simple as that if globally, worldwide, if everybody just agrees with an intention, and every hour on the hour we spin the plate again, you know, it's 12 o'clock. Okay, peaceful full disclosure. It's 1 o'clock, peaceful full disclosure. If everybody does that throughout the global grid and just spins the plate a little bit more, just energizes that intention again, maybe that's the fracking or whatever. It was just an idea that came, it was a visual thing that I got off that intention. I don't know if that...
That's interesting. Thank you.
That's kind of funny, because I was just going to say that. I came here with one of the questions that I wanted to ask was, well, why can't we just send out a time, like if you and David are out there saying, all right, well, you know, at 11 o'clock, because there's people on the West Coast, people on the East Coast, we're going to set up a time, and then we'll post a subject or a concept to meditate on. Because I know me, it's like I want to meditate every day and I don't. I think I would find it helpful to know that if I'm missing from that meditation every day, then there's a sort of sense that I'm not putting in. But it would certainly engage me more, or at least I hope it would. But yeah,
I
exactly
agree.
what he said.
But, you know, we have all these different types of people out with different ideas on things. You know, there are a large number of people that don't care for David or I, you know, but we need their co-creative abilities involved. So
You let them do that thing, and then you go, well, this is the subject. Did you choose it or not?
yeah. Well, what my point is that it needs to not come from just people like myself and David. We need to find some sort of some way to have other people that do not agree with me and my information to put out the information as well, like the Times. But the way it is now, people, if I say something, and like we need to come together or we need to put the information out there for have a meditation at a certain time, well, the people that disagree with me or David, or not just me, but anyone else out there, they're going to sit back and cross their arms. and I'm not going to contribute to that,
You only want the people who want to contribute, right? You don't.
Yes, but we need as many people as possible, and there are a lot of light workers that don't resonate with my information. But we need to find ways to get them on board. So we need to have not any one face, not this face, not David's face, on it, So it needs to be not all of us, marching under one flag, but all of our individual flags, but, marching with the same intent. That's very difficult to do. I mean, what I've just described to you is a lot of what we've run into, So we...
Quick say. Whether I like your face or David's face, it's like the reason why we're here is because there is some level we agree on. And yeah, there are a lot of people out there who I wouldn't really want to agree with that stuff, and I wouldn't necessarily want to meditate in the same direction as that, actually meditating. But in each group, you just set that up, and you just say, all right, well, for now, it's just whoever's interested. But I think it's like getting something started to get that energy out there.
It's going to take a group effort, a group effort, and other people have to be motivated to do it as well. No, I mean, we're doing it. We're getting people together, but the 100th monkey effect needs to kick in a little bit better, other people having the same idea and not knowing where it came from. Yeah, we don't, Yeah, we're coordinating with a number of different groups. Yeah, but there are people that have a very visceral reaction to Cobra. So, and if he comes up and says we need a world peace thing, they'll be like, that's a good idea, but it's coming from this guy that I think is crazy. That's been the difficulty that we've been running into, to be honest. Yeah, trying to coordinate all of this. You realize where this comes from, right? It comes from those Satan-worshiping, bluebird talking, people, because all of this propaganda has gone out there. It's a very difficult thing to do, but it's something that it has to be done. It has to be done, or we're not going to go anywhere.
I wanted to nag you a little bit about disclosure. Obviously, you can see lately that they've been following the partial disclosure timeline, whatever you want to call it, that they agreed to, and it's shown by what you post on Facebook every day. It's just a little article here on like Yahoo News or just something small, but they're very insignificant in the grand scheme of things. They go mostly unnoticed to the normal person. They don't even pay attention to it. So is that satisfying the need for them to have to disclose at a certain point, that partial disclosure that they're doing right now with the little tiny snippets, like the drip you're talking about in the news? Is that satisfying things, or is it going to kick up anytime soon?
What does satisfy me is that 5 years ago, we were still talking about whether Roswell was real. Mm-hmm. Most people, if you mentioned the word disclosure, in their mind, they saw some sort of an official coming up and saying, aliens are real, dropping the mic and walking off stage. Mm-hmm. Now the conversation has completely changed. We're talking about partial disclosures, full disclosure of all information. So changing the conversation has broadened the consciousness just of the ufology and esoteric groups alone. So yes, in the last 3 to 5 years, we've seen an expansion in what people perceive as disclosure. So the ball is rolling, and that makes many of us happy. But we've got to keep spinning that plate, I guess you could say.
Are they gonna have to step it up a notch in order to? Because like you said years ago, they were told they had to disclose, and then they're trying to do a partial disclosure. Are they gonna have to really step it up and disclose some of the real juicy stuff soon? Is it coming to a point where what they're doing just by throwing little things out in the news isn't working, or they're really gonna have to kick it up?
Well, what they're doing is working. They're planting seeds in the mass consciousness to then nurture later on. So the powers that be are giving us this partial information, these narratives that will guide us towards their agenda. At the same time that's occurring, people that are supporting that narrative are having a hard time in this community right now because of what I just said. People are like, okay, I want the full picture, not just this little narrow band, you know, of information. Before, 5 years ago, if they would have come out and said, and given these little drops of information, we would have been extremely happy. We would have said, wow, we're getting it, it's disclosure. But now we're like, wait a minute. Our consciousness and ideas have expanded to where disclosure means something completely different than it did a number of years ago. And how they've profiled our society, our profile has changed, you know, that doesn't, it's not working like they had hoped. You know, we're not buying it.
So is that going to help kind of maybe destroy their partial disclosure narrative that they're trying to do?
They're having a lot of difficulty with this partial disclosure narrative. There are a lot of skeptical people.
It just makes sense. Once you open up Pandora's box, I mean, it's not something you can close back up. So, I mean, to me, it's just idiotic thinking that they could slowly just disclose this or that or some narrative and not open up the whole thing. It just doesn't seem possible.
I don't think it is possible anymore.
I keep getting emails, and I did it a couple times with, there's someone who meditates worldwide, and it's online. It's Craig Hamilton from California, and it's called Integral Enlightenment. And I imagine, like, it doesn't matter what we meditate on, it helps. And if we start doing that and can get certain intentions from him to do it with everyone, it's already started, and it's worldwide. So, and I know he's got a number of people on that. So that's one thing. And the other thing that had come up was about remote viewing. And I just recently saw a Project Camelot thing with Carrie Cassidy on remote viewing. And they talked about how they tried to remote view to one of the what do you call them? The Draco, that being, and there's always blocks, and they have technology that can clear the blocks, but they can tell where that remote viewer is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you got to be very careful. Some of these beings are very powerful, psychically, I guess you would say. One of the things that I was warned about in the programs is that if you put these beings in your consciousness, you're putting yourself in theirs. It's basically like a beacon, so you definitely need to be careful. People have, now when, in the programs, they have, I don't know what the military term is for these people, but remote viewers would call people that protected the bases those who scatter. And what they're talking about is that when you would try to penetrate one of these sites, these remote viewers and influencers that are using technology to enhance their abilities can sense you coming in, and this cohesive thought that you're projecting there in the remote viewing, they're able to scatter it, disperse it, nullify it. And they're also able to tell where it's coming from. So yeah, it's, I guess it's in vogue to try to remote view these different beings or different places, but you have to be careful. They can even send back a energy through that connection that you've made to that one place and give you what they call an etheric hangover, which is an extremely bad headache, nausea, and it lasts for days. So yeah, you definitely need to be careful. And one of the things that happens is in this community, there's always the person that's like, well, I've been doing this for 40 years. I'm more spiritually advanced than the average person. You know, I can handle it. You know, I've run into that a lot. You know, the ego, and I'm like, well, you know, your ego shows that you maybe haven't done all that work. You know, but you know, try to tell the people that. You know, so you know, don't overestimate your own divine power, because we're all susceptible to, you know, to being attacked. No, you know, you have to be careful when you're remote viewing or trying to remote influence or view these different beings or places.
Hi, Corey.
Question on the kind of spiritual war between light and dark that's apparently going on both on the non-physical and the physical for quite some time, that we're all talking about here in the physical side with the Cabal, the Illuminati, and maybe all the way to the top it's an AI, and then it's an Archons, and it's Draco, and then all the way down at the bottom it's dark military. That's, as you said, those that are watching us and controlling us and looking at what we're doing and trying to manipulate us. I don't hear so much talk on the other side of the equation, the white hats or the good guys or the alliance, where that starts from at the top compared to the AI. Is that God, and then you take it down all the notches that are compared to, is raw to air equal to that 14-foot tall, lizard being that you had the encounter with? Are they all negotiating at their levels of consciousness, and then all the way down to the very bottom in physical sense, taking it down to society? I remember, I think it was a few months ago, you said that you were given a briefing, and they said that if Donald Trump was about to get into office or got into office, he would be, I think he said someone would stab him right there on stage, and it would never be allowed to happen. Well, he's in office and stuff's going on, and yeah.
They said that was their intent. Now, okay, and this is where you get into this division stuff that we're all programmed with, this left-right paradigm. Bull crap. It's all bull crap on both sides. What occurred was that the deep state stated that they were going to take out Trump. They were going to kill him. The alliance told them if something happens to Trump, there's going to be an immediate coup, a military coup. So that put things at bay. But their intent was there was nothing, they were not going to allow him to be elected. That was the information I received. And if he was elected, they were not going to let him fulfill his term.
So what happens now then?
Well, what happens now is that we're sitting back waiting for this very covert shadow civil war to play out. The briefings that I have are extremely disturbing about what is occurring between the deep state and the alliance. Not only here in the United States, but what's going on in Europe, if people knew, it would blow their minds. Yeah. So,
tell us something.
well, what you're seeing going on in Spain right now, Catalonia, all of that's being manipulated to cause division, and there's some of the stuff is just kind of sensitive in this politically charged environment right now. I just avoid it because people are so programmed to have a visceral reaction. Trump, that, or on the other side, the deep state, and anyone that's against Trump, they must be the deep state. Anyone that, it's so polarized right now that, I try to stay away from the fine details because it's...
But that would mean he's on the side of the alliance, and
he is alliance friendly. Alliance friendly.
Is Trump very read much more than the news would say?
Well, Trump, he's not, no, he has the intelligence community has refused to read him in because they're afraid he's going to tweet it. But he has not received anywhere near the presidential briefings that other presidents have.
But if I know the stuff by listening to you, I would think he was also listening to
Well, what may or may not surprise you is before he was elected, he was watching Cosmic Disclosure. Some other people I was told were too. Now, he knows a lot of this because of his own family lore. His great uncle or his uncle was the one who was sent in by the Cabal to clear out Tesla's safe, all of the information. So since he was sitting on the knee of his dad or his uncle, he's been hearing these stories. And he's very much into conspiracy theory. So he is not read in, though. He desperately wants to be, but no one will read him in.
I'm here listening, and I realize that we all have to work on ourselves. Finding ourselves, healing ourselves, empowering ourselves. And that's the only way we're going to save the world. My only desire is to go out in the world and teach people how to tap into their power that they were born with, because you can heal yourself.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, totally agree. That's one of the things that we've talked about. Is you got to change the world one person at a time, that person being yourself, you know? But I think a lot of the light workers, starseeds, whatever you want to call them, that are here, we didn't come here to tell people how to be. We came here to show them, you know? Show them how to live in harmony with the earth. Show them how to go through hell and healing. You know? It's through these examples that we're going to change the world one person at a time. So I completely agree.
I'm an example now.
And that might be your whole mission. You know, it upsets a lot of people when you tell them you chose this mission to come in because all of the abuse and horrible things that happen. They're like, screw you, I didn't choose this. But on some level, you chose to come through this and come through it alive and live through it. And then you're now able to show people, not just tell them. Because anyone, you know, lip service, people are sick of it. You got to show people.
Besides running the Bosnian Pyramid Project, I research pyramids all around the planet. Northern Spain, the town of Palencia, 3 circular pyramids. 1, 2, 3. Their height 74 meters. The Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan, Mexico, 74 meters. Those 3 pyramids, they have the same layout like the pyramids in Teotihuacan, Sun, Moon, Quetzalcoatl. The same like the Giza Pyramid, Cheops, Khafre, and Myceren. The same like the pyramids in Italy, Monte Vecchio. Of course, the church placed the statue on the top, and the church is here, so you cannot enter the tunnels. Now, Palencia is a very small town. Today, it's only about 10,000 people. In the 15th century, they built not the church, but cathedral. Even for today's norm, it's a huge cathedral, which should be in Madrid or Barcelona. Now, above the entrance, there is a pyramid ornament. 3 sides, like a triangle. Inside the pyramid are the human faces. The royals, the rulers, military, farmers, kids, mothers. And above the pyramid are those 2 beings, 1 and 2. Now, this was carved in the 15th century. Of course, today, in the last few decades, the Hollywood movies are bringing those predators, aliens. This is from the 15th century. Of course, we do have 2 legs and 2 hands. Now you'll see the head with this long skull. It's not elongated human skull, obviously. This is very, very long skull. Look at the back. Again, we remember all those alien movies with Sigourney Weaver. So this is really for you, question. Now we try to put the shape, the actual shape. Now we're not shape. Interestingly enough, the cathedral, which is here, is exactly on the north-south line from the pyramid. So the connection is there. The message is there. Who built it? And who is above the humanity?
Hidden in plain sight, that's what I was saying to him. Makes you wonder whoever crafted the alien versus predator depiction on movies, if they modeled it after some of these ancient carvings, because it's pretty dead on. Yeah, thank you for that. And interestingly enough, next year we're doing a conference in Valencia, so this information is. Palencia.
It's north from Valladolid. It's a very small town.
Oh, okay.
Valencia is big.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Hi. I have a question. I don't know if you touched on this yesterday, but it's pretty dear to my heart. As far as us spiritually advancing, I genuinely feel that we will not be able to unless we address the whole satanic pedophilia sacrifice of our children, and whether it be on Earth or off Earth. And my struggle is every single day with meditation, and I know that we all need to collectively get together and meditate. What I see is trying to visualize the outcome of what, when we spiritually advance and when we move into different realities and move with Earth and connect with Earth. But what can we do in order to put an end to that? I'd really try to envision the children being free, because, you know, even if right now there's children that are being tortured, and even if they were set free, then what happens to them at this point? So I you know, what do we do? What do we do with this? I have 2 children, and I don't want to live in fear of this, but it's very prevalent, and it's something that no one talks about. It's starting to right now, but I think that that's another one of the full disclosures, that if the human race really found out the depth and the magnitude of what is going on with our children and why these beings need this type of energy and what they do to the children for this energy, I don't know if the human race is going to be able to handle it.
No, they're not. That's why I say, yesterday I asked who all is looking forward to disclosure, and the whole room raised their hand. And I said, be careful what you ask for. It's not going to be a big kumbaya kind of moment. If we get full disclosure, it's going to be the most sickening moment of human history. But it's something, you know, I stated, all evolution occurs through stress. And we're going to need that stressor to be able to evolve past it. You know, and those, if people really don't understand how systemic these satanic pedophiles are. Most of us have that have supported different politicians or whatever, and we fought for them, pumping fists. Well, you know, when we find out that we put all of our energy behind supporting one of these sickos, you know, we're going to feel responsible as well. So, yeah, it's going to be a process that's very, very difficult for us to go through. And at this point, you know, we're kind of waiting for the alliance to expose more and more of it, because everyone's so conditioned right now that, you know, if the news tells us that it's a conspiracy theory, most of the people are going to be, oh, okay, you know, it's a conspiracy theory, you know. We're just at the beginning of exposing all of that, and I've had a very detailed and long briefing, and I have 2 children, that I just wanted to stay in bed afterwards. I mean, I was just sick, and I've heard and seen just about anything you could think of. But people think they know what's going on, and it's horrible, but it's just the very, very tip of the iceberg. Even those of us who know about the pedophilia thing and know the different things that are going on, we're going to be shocked. It is that insidious.
Will it end? Like, will it end?
Well, it'll take a lot of work, because the victims usually perpetrate the crime later on in life because they don't get the right counseling, the right environments. So all of that depends on us, how we handle and how we help the victims. That's where you end the chain, is with the victims. That cycle is ended with the victims. But exposing it and helping the victims heal and develop a modicum of a normal life, that's going to be on us.
I want to add to what Sharon brought up. We cannot, and I believe this with all my heart, we can't develop spiritually until we expose this underbelly of pedophilia. And it was brought to my attention by the extraterrestrials. There are ETs that are working with the Alliance, we do have a lot of help. Now, The first episode that I saw on Cosmic Disclosure with you and David Wilcock, my mouth was hanging open. My mouth opened and I was shocked. Okay, that night, the ETs contacted me and they showed me a humanoid reptilian standing next to Adolf Hitler. I have family that was killed by Hitler. And behind that was an ethereal Trump. Now, this was before Trump won the election. And what they disclosed to me at that time was that Trump, whether you like him or not, is going to expose this. He's not part of the cabal. He is going to expose this, and there's going to be trials. There's going to be trials of the people that are running our government that are committing these crimes. You don't get elected unless you agree to commit these crimes. And we need to wake up to this. And I get downloads confirming everything you're saying. And I know about all the infighting with Kerry, whatever, and the people that, Bill, Ryan, and people that were disputing what you were saying. It was told to me that what you were saying is the truth. And a lot of people had a hard time because of the 20-year and back. That whole mind-bending thing with the time is hard even for me to, at this point, to even believe, but I know you're telling the truth. I knew it from the time I listened to you that you were telling the truth. And I get confirmation on what you're saying, and I get confirmation on the pedophilia and on what's going on with the government.
Yes, and I agree totally, of course. But, we're also, no matter how much we think we've grown, we're still responsible in contributing to some of this larger karmic issue. There are, like the United States, we have not dealt with what was done to the Native Americans and the indigenous African people. We have not dealt with it. The people, back during that time that were actually responsible for it, there was no apology or karmic cleansing. They just kicked the can down the road. Well, then their grandkids were like, well, I'm not responsible for that, so they kicked the can down the road. Well, that is a major karmic issue for us collectively in this country, and other countries have it as well. So we have the pedophiles and the Satanists that are controlling and doing all this stuff that we need to expose, but then there's also this, we need to circle around and start to deal with just what I said was just an example. There are many other things. Until we deal with that, we're going to hit a glass ceiling spiritually as well.
I want to thank you for what you said. I wholeheartedly agree with you, and I believe that ties in with what you said about the war behind the scenes. So we have a lot to look forward to. Change the subject just a little bit. I want to make sure that I understood what you said earlier about the secret space program and Ra, where they were telling you to avoid Ra, the theories, teachings, and how was that communicated to you, or who communicated that to you, and how did you change and discover that that was false?
Well, it was in the programs. The secret space program, it was communicated by superiors, and even the scientists would discuss it sometimes when they would be standing around talking. It would come up. They would say that it's Luciferian and all this stuff, which would give me. I grew up in a Christian environment. I had a visceral reaction to it, and it worked very well with me. I began, and I looked into it a little bit here and there. I hadn't really read it, and I wasn't able to read it. When I would try to read it, the words would hover above the page. There was some sort of block that was occurring. Now, of course, David Wilcock was just pushing it with me all the time. You need to read it. You need to read it. The Blue Avians are saying the exact same thing that Ra did, that kind of stuff. And I would have a reaction. I'd be like, whoa, But once I was actually able to read it, it did have a profound effect on me.
It sounds like it's kind of a negative thing against the secret space program if they're
well, like I said, it's compartmentalized, it's manipulated, it's controlled, and everyone in this room is mind controlled. And within those programs, people are definitely, if not mind controlled, they're put into a box.
Okay,
You know,
that sounds
you
like a
can't
negative
think
box
outside
stuff.
the box.
Sounds
Oh,
like
yeah.
a negative box stuff.
Of course.
Just to follow up on like Solar Warden, they used to protect the colonies on Mars, according to Randy Kramer. And basically they were working for the ICC. Now they're saying that they're protecting Earth. What changed, and where are they getting their financing to protect Earth?
They were not protecting the Mars bases per se. Solar Warden was a group that was developed to monitor the solar system, to monitor it, anything that came in and went out. Before Solar Warden, we basically had to petition ETs for certain things, and we had no control over who was getting abducted on the planet, what ETs were coming on our planet. We had zero control. Once we developed these space programs, we had not only advanced craft, but advanced detection technology and monitoring technology, as well as weaponry. And we were then able to police or warden our own solar system. That was the purpose of Solar Warden.
Well, who did the, like Randy's group, the super soldiers on Mars, who are they working for and how are they getting paid?
They don't get paid.
Okay, well, how were their expenses met?
Well, you have, depending on the level, if you go up to the military-industrial complex
I'm not talking about
programs,
payroll
I know,
to
I'm
the
working my way
soldiers.
up. I'm working
Yeah.
my way up. A lot of that is financed by the drug trade and, you know, different things like that, you know, finding ways to get money from the taxpayers. Now, on the higher levels, they're not a part, they're a completely breakaway civilization. They're not a part of our financial system. Our financial system does not support them. A lot of what they're getting material-wise is from the ICC's ability to build technologies and trade them off to other non-terrestrial races, and harvesting and mining minerals in, on different planetoids and in the asteroid belt. They have a completely breakaway civilization that is not tied to ours in any way other than they're pulling assets.
Okay, because I'm looking at the moral aspect, because that's slave labor up there.
Yeah.
And we have the secret, the super soldiers protecting them, and apparently, like you're saying, ICC's financing them being there. Were the super soldiers part of the Solar Warden program?
Well, now, the super soldier thing has been very convoluted since the information came out. It was one of the things that it was very successful. There were a handful of very legitimate super soldiers, but you know, they didn't jump out of airplanes and land on their feet. All this stuff is a bunch of bullcrap. You know, they were very enhanced human beings, but they were not superhumans.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm referring to what Randy Kramer's been saying.
Okay.
The genetically engineered soldiers. Like Randy Kramer, he said there were 300 of them that were taken there to protect the colonies against the inhabitants.
Yeah, I worked alongside at times the security force that was protecting the colonies.
Right.
And they were extremely specially trained, and they had chemical and genetic enhancements, but they were still very human.
Well, of course, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of magical stuff has been built up around the super soldier thing.
Yeah, I was trying to get some information about the morality of it all.
Well,
you know, because
if you're
now,
looking for
now they're saying that they're protecting the Earth.
they're morally bankrupt.
Okay.
You know, there is no morality. You know, a lot of the when it comes, Mars is such an oppressive place that the energy there is that of like a prison.
Okay. But if these super soldiers who are now not protecting the colonies, if they were a part of Solar Warden, sorry to belabor the point, and now Solar Warden is saying that they're protecting the Earth, where's the transition?
They were not. They are these security forces. They're corporate. They are not a part of Solar Warden. I'm sorry if people have said otherwise. They are not. They are corporate. They're corporate forces.
Okay.
ICC forces. They Solar Warden is a Navy program, and they do have Marines. Well, they call them the Marines, but they're made up of people from all the different branches, that serve in, these Marine. I can't remember the recon expeditionary force that they called them.
Special section.
And it is a special section, but that's not what they were referred to me anyway.
Okay, well, okay. All right, well, thank you. I'm taking up too
But
much
when you're
time.
looking into the morality of it, Mars is, there's a lot of slave labor going on there, and a lot of, they choose a lot of, psychopaths to help run it.
Well, my concern was it was the same people that were there that year. How did the transition occur?
Yeah, well, they do cycle in people in these corporate military programs and cycle them back through the 20 and back programs.
They have no morals here. They have morals here.
No.
That's what we should be cautious about.
They profile people for different projects and jobs. No, Solar Warden, like I said, is not who you were referring. They're ICC, interplanetary. Well, yeah. Yeah, but Solar Warden was not on the surface of Mars, protecting Mars, providing material or human support on Mars. No. Who? Solar Warden is doing their mandate of policing the solar system and monitoring what comes and goes into our solar system. Well, it's all perspective, these ETs that, some people have a positive experience, some will have a negative experience with the same ET group. And a lot of it is perspective. And
so I have a quick question for you guys. Dr. Sam, a lot of the work I've mentioned to you, my buddy Josh and I, we work with Drumvell Melchizedek, and our focus is on what heart math calls heart coherence. And being able to see these fields coming out the heart, these fields are 5,000 times stronger than the mental fields. So the idea is to, hey, let's get out of the head because it's duality. Let's drop into the heart. So the question is, I think you mentioned to me there's somewhere around 50,000 volunteers that have been down to the, was that correct in that?
No, in the last 8 years, 2,900 volunteers from
Okay,
62 countries and 6 continents.
Awesome. Okay, sorry about that. My question to you is, you obviously must see people have huge transformations when they walk into these pyramids. Do you hear the repetitive sharing that it's a heart-based thing, or can you elaborate a little bit on that? Thank you.
This summer we had 8 shifts, 8 groups, June, July, August, September. I receive every one of them, and usually I'm the one who showed them the locations before they start volunteering. And I always ask them the same question: why did they come to Bosnia to volunteer on the Bosnian pyramids? And I'm always getting the same answer. When I first hear about Bosnian pyramids, I felt something inside. I had this inner, need, inner call to come to Bosnia. Doesn't matter whether they are from Peru or New Zealand or South Korea or Turkey or Germany or US or Canada. So obviously this topic vibrated with them when they first heard about it. They came to Bosnian pyramids after 10 days or 30 days or 7 days. They all talk about the life-changing experience. And our project started as the archaeological project 12 years ago. And today it has become the most active archaeological site in the world. But then it was not enough, so we started applying a lot of other scientific disciplines, interdisciplinary scientific projects. And then we started with the energy aspects, engineers, physicists, sound engineers. And then we noticed that this energy is affecting our energy fields, our auric fields, spiritual aspect, and then the self-healing aspects. And the volunteers actually, they go through all these different aspects, and they are telling us When it comes to self-healing, yes, they can notice that, the big improvement in their health. When it comes to spirituality, yes, they realize, we are not only physical, but spiritual beings also. And then they share information, they talk to each other, they, share the knowledge. And so the whole new world opened for them. And it seems to me, if you're looking at our souls as the different stage souls, you have infant and baby souls and youth and mature and old souls. It seems to Bosnia mostly old souls and mature souls are coming. And we know that, not all 7.4 billion people will come to Bosnia to experience the Bosnian pyramids, but 50,000 souls every year, and then 50,000 next year, and it will be a huge impact globally. So yes, they all tell us why they came. They all, well, of course, one of them who was in Bosnia this year, and you can see how, enlightened, how happy, how, he sees us, oh, I love you, I love you. That's really the main thing we have over there. I even named one of the pyramids, the Pyramid of Love. Sun, moon, dragon, earth, love, love. Archaeologists are attacking me for different reasons. And then for this, why did you give such romantic name? They don't realize that the words are powerful, and the most powerful is the word love. So when you name one huge structure, the Pyramid of Love, the idea is to color the valley with the love. And this is the type of messages we are sending out to the world. So yes, this is very powerful experience. And that's why we have so many people coming back. Bosnia, it's so far. You go to Europe, you go to London or Paris or Amsterdam, but people are coming to Bosnia.
I want to say thanks to both of you for being here and putting out the information that you've been doing. It's been just fantastic, I think, for the whole community. I have a question about what's going on in Antarctica. I've seen some photos of alleged pyramids down there, and I've known that you've talked about your visits to Antarctica. Are the things that you saw in Antarctica, are they related to those pictures of the pyramids we've been seeing, or is that something totally different?
I'm told that a number of pyramids have been located down there, and that they are related to the civilization that was on Antarctica before it was covered with ice. Now, it's interesting though, I reported about being brought down under the ice into these big ice caverns that were created by geothermal heat. We're starting to get little bits and pieces of that information. Recently a bunch of scientists just released a video of the ice caverns, stated that they were created by geothermal heat, that it was 20 degrees Celsius under there. You can swim in the pools. You can be in a swimming suit, in a bathing suit under there. So this information is slowly trickling out to us. I would definitely like to hear what he has to say about the pyramids, if he's looked into them.
Of course, pyramids are built all over the planet. They are telling us about Egypt, Mexico, Peru, but they are in China, 250 Shanxi pyramids. Indonesia, 29,000-year-old pyramid in Western Java. Cambodia, Kocher pyramid. Island of Mauritius, in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Sudan, 224 of them. Egypt, 155. Sicily, 43. Canary Islands, 104. Peru, 300. Central America, tens of thousands. Cahokia pyramids here in states, 250 of them in the state of Illinois. Antarctica, well, I haven't been there. Those that I mentioned, I've been on all those places. Antarctica, I saw photos, like probably most of us. We can see two rather regular sites. Maybe there are 4, maybe there are 3. And then some other photos are showing 3 pyramids. Probably they wanted to relate to Egyptian or Teotihuacan pyramids. But I've learned in my life not to trust photographs. So unless we have an independent verification, I cannot say yes or no, and of course I'd like to go there. But since we know that at one point Antarctica was not icy continent, that it did have greenery and vegetation, we know that even the stone ball phenomenon was present there. Somebody was, shaping those big spherical balls. We know that the presence of civilization was there at least 100,000 plus years. So it's very possible that the pyramids were there, yes. Of course, we know about the history with the Nazis going there during 1930s and the bases. We know about 47 and 48 and, Americans fighting them, so yes. But my experience there is very, very limited, just on what I can read.
I have a question for both of you, actually. For the giant skeletons, what kind of details do you have? I saw pictures, but I cannot ask anybody around me.
Well, or if you're talking about the very large skeletons, those were a hoax. They were done as a class-type project, Photoshop kind of thing. Now, there are giant skeletons that have been found going, back into the 1800s, and they would put it in the newspapers at the time. But they were giants. Most of the people during that time were like 5.5 feet tall. So these giants were anywhere from 6.5 up almost to 8 feet tall. That are around 8 feet tall that they're located, that they were finding. Now, there are still, I've spoken to several Native American groups that they know where some of these remains are to this day. But they keep it a secret because they know that someone will come and just take them away and desecrate them and throw them in the ocean or whatever. But yeah, the very large skeleton photos you see of giants are not real.
But different civilizations, they have different sizes. That's what I know.
Yeah, I mean, there was a civilization of red-haired, six-fingered giants that controlled especially the eastern part of the United States, going down into Central America. There was a civilization that was around for quite some time, and during the last ice age, they seem to have almost completely perished. Those who survived after the ice age were in extreme survival mode, became what we would call cannibals. Were living in deep caverns and caves. A lot of the times, Native Americans, if they would find out where they were, they would put a nice big bonfire at the mouth of a cave and suffocate them. They were not a positive group.
Hey, Corey.
What was scientifically proven when it comes to giants? The last quarter of the 19th century, when the Smithsonian Institute was established, the first task their teams had was to travel the U.S., checking those tumulus or tumuli phenomenon, and destroy them, the earthworks, and all the archaeological material and all the remains to remove and hide. So we do have some interviews in especially some local Chicago newspapers from 1882, 83, and so on, where those teams explain that they did find skeletons 8 to 12 feet. They took them to Washington, D.C., and of course, they were never exposed to the public because Smithsonian was not established to show, but to hide. So 1% they show, 99%, like in those Indiana Jones movies, they're really placed in those huge underground warehouses. So this is what we can trace, and we can say yes, they were found there, and interestingly enough, they were found here on the American continent. But then, in a lot of civilizations, a lot of societies, they do talk about giants, but we don't have a physical proof that we can say yes, these are the mounds. Sometimes our friends like Klaus Donau or Tellinger, they do find some things, but then I guess they stopped halfway trying to, prove the thing to the end. And like he said, what we can find on internet, sometimes people send those PowerPoint presentations with the big, skeletons and archaeologists there. Yes, they are photoshops, they are fake.
Going back to waking the uninitiated, it probably seems mundane to everybody in this room, but the recent release of all the JFK files, is that a good foothold? I feel like even just talking to my parents, there's things that they probably wouldn't have believed about the CIA, and you know what I mean, in terms of getting a foothold into the larger picture.
I don't expect a smoking gun in that information, but the fact that as they're releasing it, they're saying we're doing it for full disclosure is an interesting term they're using. But I think that what it's going to do is stimulate people's consciousness. They start thinking about the conspiracy theory stuff again. But I expect some interesting revelations to occur, but I don't expect anything groundbreaking.
What's the best email to contact you if we run across technology information that we want to share?
spherebeingalliance@gmail.com.
I just want to know if either one of you know about crystal skulls and what their purpose is.
Only thing I know is what I've heard since they've come to the public view. The 13 different skulls, the Mayan prophecy thing. I don't know anything that you wouldn't know.
Okay, they have seen some shows where some of the people that are in possession of them, because the skulls they choose who watches over them. So I don't know if you or Ken knew anything about those.
Yeah, I've been present on several of them. Some of them are in Houston, where I used to live for 25 years. Some in Canada, some different places. When it comes to their origin, yes, most of them are found in the Mayan world. And the Mayan, tribal leaders would sell them because of the money situation. So now, there are several which are, they are rather famous in the world. When you're in their presence, it seems that that you can use all your 5 physical senses, to get, certain reactions. You can smell, you can hear, you can see the change of the colors. So they're made in very intelligent way. Sometimes in rather unusual way, because people who shape the crystal, they will say, "Oh, you would never do this like that," but it's been done that way, meaning it was very high technology how they were made. Then the way they are polished, they're saying using our instruments and tools, it would take 300 years to polish it so smooth and stuff like that. So obviously they are product of very advanced civilization. And those from the Mayans, it seems that they were getting them really long time ago. When it comes to the Mayan world, of course, they're not only 3,000 years, like they're telling us. They are direct descendants from Atlanteans. In Belize, we found places with domesticated corn 7,500 years old. So I would say there is a really direct connection, Mayans now and 12,000 years plus back. And I would say they were having this technology to make those crystal skulls, and which would, storage information, and so yeah, they were very powerful. Whether there are 13 of them or it is just a legend, or we do know that there were many more than 13. So maybe 13 major or something like that. Some of them I even found in Tibet. So it's interesting.
Oh, is anybody off the microphone? Okay. I had a question in regards to just kind of spiritual development. Other people have already kind of touched on it, but and I'll be brief. I was raised very strict Catholic, and I don't want to bash anybody that is. I still find a lot of worth in it, and I still have belief in it. But there's so much that I see now as fear control and just programming and mind control. And, I kind of years ago was reading a lot of Jim Marrs, and you face the gauntlet, you hear a lot of crazy stuff. And then you kind of just, okay, it's out there, it is what it is, and you get over it. But for the people that are still in that conditioned mindset, how, and some of my siblings even, very religious still, how do you kind of address that with them in a way, in maybe your guys' experience, that isn't bashing any kind of belief system, but just saying you have to deprogram certain things that are within just your mindset, your comfort zone, and look beyond it? It's a tough question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, because, you know, it's when you can get people to agree that, yeah, religions are, yeah, maybe they were set up in a positive way, but then, you know, they were then used quickly by the cabal to control people and all this stuff. And people will nod and they'll be like, yeah, that's true about your religion, but not mine, you know? I mean, people are so entrenched in that. I don't know if those types of conversations are going to be received at all, even, you know, pretty much what my family is, you know, I have a number of people that are convinced the Earth is 7,000 years old. I mean, nothing I say is going to convince them otherwise, you know? So I think it's pretty much we need to focus on ourselves. You know, a lot of my family has been trying to figure out, wow, you know, he's not going to church every Sunday, but he's going through this weird metamorphosis, and, you know, he's starting to become more spiritual, and his family life is better, and all these things are improving, but he's not doing it the way we trained him to, you know. I think we have to be examples more than trying to speak to people, because, you know, especially people that are completely indoctrinated, they're just going to shut you down, you know, and shame you.
Plus, if they say you got to go to a building and you say, well, the Bible says my body is a building and I am inside.
Our society is based on fear. In academia, if you're a student, you fear your professor. Assistant professor, again, fear the professor. They don't want to say something wrong. Professors, of course, fear deans or rectors. In corporate world, if you're a young guy, you know, you fear what you're going to do, what you're going to say, because your supervisor is looking. Your supervisor is fear, you know, of the manager or VP and so on. In media world, the journalist, they need to make sure what they're going to write, the news, so editor, you know, will not criticize them or fire them. Fear. The basic fear is fear of losing the life, the physical death. And based on that fear, all other fears are coming. Fears of losing the job, losing the money, losing the mortgage, losing the house, losing the car, losing the loved ones. Fear, fear, fear. We need to change that. If we go back to the ancient civilizations, we would realize that they were more spiritually advanced. What does that mean? They knew that we have, of course, our physical body for one use only. But also we have our soul, which is almost, you know, eternal. And we have our spirit. Once you realize that your soul will live through so many lives, there is no need to fear. Why should you fear? You won't die. Why should you fear of losing your job? Why should you fear of losing your home? So once you live the life without the fear, then this is not what elites don't want. Because without that, they cannot control us. They cannot manipulate us. When it comes to spirituality, back in Europe, they were teaching us spirituality equals religious. Wrong. Spirituality is development of our spiritual senses, so we can sense the world beyond the physical reality. With our physical senses, we sense physical reality. We see, we hear, we touch. With our spiritual senses, we can then feel much, much more. 5 physical and 30 spiritual senses. First of all, every physical has its counterpart on spiritual aspect. So these are first 5 spiritual senses. But then, ability to directly communicate, telepathy, spiritual sense. Ability to see the aura field, spiritual sense. The colors in aura, which of course tells a lot about us, spiritual sense. The power to move objects with the power of our mind, telekinesis, spiritual sense. The power to move through space and time and different densities, teleportation, a spiritual sense. At one point in the time, over 12,000 years ago, before the end of the last ice age, when our planet was much stronger, when the natural energy places were much stronger than today, then the pyramids were much stronger, producing very strong energy fields. And you could move through them. Teleportation. So once you develop your spiritual senses, then you can live in a balance, physical and spiritual aspect. And then you become free. And this is what they don't want us to be. They don't want us to be free. We free ourselves, then everybody is becoming free, and then you have society based on free women and free men. The project we have in Bosnia, it's of course archaeological, it's scientific, but much, much more. You go to those tunnels, people start feeling stuff with their hands. They start feeling energies. We start developing our spiritual abilities. Two major things that we have over there. We are proving that the pyramid energy is actually clean, unlimited, and free, based on the shape, geometry of the pyramid, based on elements of sacred geometry, based on using existing natural sources, free energy. That energy beam going through the top of the Sun pyramid, 28 kilohertz, the same frequency used by Nikola Tesla 100 years ago in Warden Cliff Tower to transport the energy between two planets. And as he said, unlimited quantities of energy, thousands of horsepowers, regardless of their distance, 28 kilohertz. The Bosnian pyramid builders knew about this particular frequency 30,000 years ago. And Tesla got it through his experiments, successful, unsuccessful. So, free energy, the first pillar of the free society. And free flow of knowledge, the second pillar of the free society.
In the beginning, the way Cosmic Disclosure was structured, it was really revealing a lot of information about the secret space program and what the technology looked like and kind of what a day in the life like was there. And it seemed to have evolved to more validating the existence of the programs, kind of covering the material about what William Tompkins and other people there, and most recently with the Indian tribes. But do you know if the show will take a direction going back to revealing the technology that was used and ways that it'll be applied to society by and large?
I hope so. I'm not exactly sure what we're doing right now. When we reached pretty much the end of my testimony of what I had experienced, and then after that, the show transitioned into bringing in people to validate that information. Right now, Cosmic Disclosure is about to take a short production break because we're going to reboot the set and change it up, and it's going to come back even better. Now, content-wise, we're discussing a lot of not only validating the information the way we have in the past through different authors, experiencers, and whatnot, but we're also going to start also covering like what has come out in the news that corroborates with my earlier testimony. And there are a number of new whistleblowers that we're vetting to talk to. There's some that are coming forward that have some promise, but I'm being extremely careful when it comes to insiders because the last attack that was used on to kind of bring down my information was not successful because they were basing it off of a psychological profile 3 years ago before I went through this metamorphosis. So I have to be careful of them bringing in a person that has a really good story and maybe some documentation or that, and me saying, yeah, I think they're real, and then them blowing up in public. So, and this disclosure stuff is way bigger than me in my testimony. What we're hoping to do is get in more whistleblowers, also talk to people who have been, who've worked in the military-industrial complex to discuss these technologies, how they're being developed, how far they've been developed in the background. But we have pretty much reached the end of my testimony of the experiences I had. The show was developed around my experiences, of course.
Right.
But the show is taking another evolution. And not only that, but when I go back, in like the second week of November, we're shooting my new show. And it's going to be called Above Cosmic. And if you notice in the first shows, not only was I in a different state than I am now, but David was interviewing me, and he was taking the conversation in whatever direction he thought was pertinent at the time. What we're going to do is I'm going to cover a lot of that testimony again, but I'm going to give all of these details that were skipped over.
Right, right. That's kind of really where I was going, because a lot of the material that you were communicating on first, especially talking about the replicators and a lot of the other technology that was in these programs, I would have wanted to hear a lot more about that and see if there was people who had approached you or if people are attempting to replicate this technology now with the current advancements. And one more question. Have you heard anything more from Sigmund?
Not a word from Sigmund. I'm not real interested in actually seeing him again, to be honest. I mean, the guy chemically interrogated me and caused me to give up 3 people that I didn't want to give up. So, I, of course, the loving side of me hopes he's okay, but the, I guess, jaded side of me is good riddance.
Mine's a simple question for the doctor. I just got a 4-foot pyramid that I'm going to put inside the house. I got a table, no nails, and I'm getting ready to level the table and align the pyramid. And what I'm going to make is pyramid water for health. But my question, it's, I think, 72 or 74 degrees, not in the 40s like the big ones. What happens to that energy that's going to go through my roof? I did not think of it till I watched your presentation, and I'm thinking, what's going to happen to the roof?
You're going to have a leak. So you were here yesterday?
Yes.
Now you could see that there are many elements, not just the shape of the pyramid. Of course, the shape is number 1, the most important. The second one, the material. Number 3, orientation. As long as you orient it to the cardinal points, east, west, north, south, it's going to be working.
Well,
Why am I saying that?
I screwed up there. I was so anxious to try it that I took a compass. Now, you're supposed to get it within 1/10 of a degree. I was close.
That's okay, as long as it is close.
Yeah, but I drank the water, and boy, that was really bad. So my inside shook and all kinds of stuff. So I'm really going to work on getting the pyramid aligned perfectly, because it somehow screwed up the water.
Why is alignment important? Our planet is a huge energy ball. There are energy flows on the planet. The strongest is north-south. The second strongest, east-west. You make 4-sided pyramid perfectly aligned to the cardinal points. You initiate energy movement within the pyramid. You have 3 energy flows. One is energy beam going through the top. The second one, energy flow within the pyramid, hitting 1/3 of the height, going to 2/3, coming back to 1/3, and completing the circle. If you are exposed to this energy, yes, it is going to improve the molecular structure. Yours, if you are inside, and king's and queen's chamber in a Great Pyramid of Egypt, are exactly on the way of this energy flow, but it also improves molecular structure of everything. Plants, animals, water, objects, anything. So yes, this is what you need to do. That's why you're placing the water inside. The water starts vibrating higher. When we hate, we vibrate low. When we are violent, when we are jealous, we vibrate low. When we are open-minded, we love everyone, we vibrate high. When we drink the water, if it is our kitchen water, city water, with the chlorine and fluorides and traces of heavy metals, it vibrates very low. We drink it, pulls us down. If it is, clean water, if it is, energized water, vibrates high, of course, then, our vibration go up. We measure the Bosnian pyramid water. First of all, it is clean, a lot of negative ions, exposed to the best pyramid energies, original Schumann resonance, 7.83 Hertz, 28 kilohertz electromagnetism, the levitation ultrasound frequency. Water remembers, it vibrates very high. We drink it, we know we solve our problems. But bear in mind that Bosnian pyramids, they have all the elements. They have underground waters, they have negative ionization, they have those pyramid energies which you will not achieve just making a simple wooden pyramid. You will have 2 or 3 elements. If you had 10 or 15, of course, the effects would be much stronger. But even that pyramid, just oriented, it's going to give the effect, yes. Don't worry about that one. Actually, you make a little pyramid. There will be like a movement of the energy spinning a little bit and then going through the top. There will be. But more elements you have, the pyramid is stronger and produces at least 3 flows. Top, inside, and off the pyramid in concentric circles, affecting, if it is outside, crops, agriculture, and the whole societies. Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Thank you, Corey. He's done a great job. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sue. And you have a good evening.